What's up, guys? It's Paul Salazar. I'm here with Christian and Mario. We're going to be discussing a client review from Lukas and Jacqueline about your help with their transaction, their recent transaction in Venice. We'll be talking about how they met. Well, actually, why don't we talk about it now? You guys met at an open house on Grand Canal.
Yeah.
How was the interaction with them?
I'll let you.
So it was at the Grand Canal on a Saturday, and they just came through. They mentioned to us they were looking for, or they've been looking for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And they'd seen over 60 properties. There was part of a 1031 property exchange. So,
60 properties.
Yeah. So
wow.
they'd seen pretty much everything on the market.
Yeah.
And they were time sensitive because of the 1031 property exchange. They had to find at least 3 projects or properties within, I think, a 2.5 week period of us meeting them. So we just kind of understood what they're looking for, understood what they'd seen, and got really granular around, right, what is specifically you're looking for.
Yeah.
And then we literally from that went to Top Agent Network, reached out to our agents we knew. Mary did a great job finding everything off market. There's been the least in the last 6, 9, 12, 15 months, and reaching out to those landlords to see whether potentially they'd be interested in selling.
But let's back up because they were working with other agents.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
And you were still doing all this work.
Yeah, so they were actually in escrow on a property, and then it fell out, and that's when we met them.
I see.
Yeah, in Castellamare.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So you guys did all this work trusting that they're going to use you, or you were showing them this is how we work.
Yeah.
And I think that helped you secure you guys as their agent.
Yeah.
Because they had, like every buyer, they have plenty of choices, right?
Of course.
So why do you think they chose you instead of the other agents?
I mean, I think at the start of that relationship was building the trust and credibility, and I think that takes a bit of time because you're working against time. We had 2.5 weeks to find them like a property. Yeah. We just spent a significant amount of time those first couple of days just really researching, going out, finding out properties we think were going to be a good fit. And as we sent them to them to build the trust and credibility, it's amazing how they started to open up. And then in their defense, they were very responsive to coming up, seeing these properties if they thought it was a good fit. And most of the properties we showed, which I think was about 9 or 10 in total, the first 2 or 3 got them really hooked into what we were trying to do. And then we were like, we're door knocking, we're circle dialing around the geo farms or neighborhoods or pockets you're looking for. And then you could just see in their eyes, they're like, these guys are really working for us right now. And I think that the trust was built in those first couple of viewings. And we were showing them stuff that they hadn't seen that they really, really liked. So it built that credibility. And then from there, we helped them find the property they wanted, which was great for everyone.
Yeah, so make sure you guys watch until the end because we'll discuss a little bit about, how we got them the property and then also that inspection and due diligence process, which was quite lengthy, and we were able to get them a pretty big credit or price reduction based on what we found, right? Yeah. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below, hit the subscribe button and like button, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, guys, what's up? It's Paul Salazar. I'm here with Mario, Christian, and Lukas. Thanks for coming, Lukas. So Mario and Christian helped Lukas and his family look for a house. So we're here to interview Lukas about your experience on working with us as a team to help you find your home that's right behind us here in Venice, California. So why don't we start? How did you guys end up meeting?
In theory, the market is quite transparent and most is done online. But in the end, once you start engaging in the process, you realize that the entire process does have its bumps and it's important to have people that help you. And so throughout the process, we met various people and, with Christian and generally other people, we then went a little bit further inquiring and going forward with certain conversations. And then in the end, we stuck around the people that we felt would provide the most value in this conversation and the search.
For sure. And I recall when they first met you and Jacqueline, you guys had a certain timeline in order to find your next property, right? So I know you guys worked tirelessly because we were at the office together and you were doing a lot. So why don't you guys talk about what your process was when looking for off-market properties, because that was the whole thing. We're in a very, very tight inventory market. There's not a lot of inventory out there. And in order to find things that are not on the market, what were you guys doing?
Well, I feel like Lukas had a very specific criteria in a property. They were originally very view orientated. They liked the Castellamare area, so Christian and I said, let's go door knocking in Castellamare. So we definitely went door knocking. We looked at expireds online. We showed Lukas a couple off markets. Didn't suit his criteria. So definitely off market prospecting through past leases, expireds, withdrawals, and door knocking, I think, was our niche.
And also, I think on that, Lukas, Jacqueline, they had a 1031 property exchange, so we're working towards a given timeline. I think you've seen a lot of properties already. So the challenge for us was to go and find properties they hadn't seen. So that's where, we went off market, we, circle dialing, door knocking, and, even going to our top agent network, being able to go out there and say, look, this is the requirements, this is what they're looking for. It's very time sensitive. And we really hustled for 2 or 3 weeks, and you guys were amazing throughout. Lukas and Jacqueline, they're very responsive on text messages, and if we saw something that was really attractive that we thought was a good fit, you were coming out, your working commitments to come and view these properties. So the collaboration was really important, I think, throughout, and I think through the hard work from everyone, I think we've got to a really good kind of outcome, and obviously finding you the home that you wanted. So yeah.
So Lukas, like you mentioned earlier, you've already met with a lot of agents, right? And so what was your process like when narrowing down to use Mario and Christian to help you represent you in getting that next property?
I think for people who are getting into such a monumentous decision, right, that's important, and they really want to be excited about whatever property they're looking at, and potentially like investing, buying, or renting. It's something you don't do every day, and it's not transparent like what is really needed. So having someone that is definitely on your side and has already proven that they understand what your preferences are and that you can work with them is really the most important part in assessing a market or people that help you, you don't know a lot, right? Yeah. So you're banking on a relationship that is fledgling, that very new. So understanding that it still needs to go through rapport, and this kind of stuff is just really helpful. And that was ultimately where we made the decision, where we understood, okay, certain people understand what we need, and they're absolutely 100% like engaged. That gave us the confidence of moving forward.
For sure. And I think it's hard, when you're meeting somebody at an open house, or or knowing agents through friends or family, to understand if they're trustworthy, right? And maybe you don't even know them, you just referred to them, or again, you meet them at an open house. Like, it's so hard to gain that trust with that person, right? So like, what was that determining factor for you and Jacqueline in saying, these are the guys, like, please help us out with this next property?
So putting it very bluntly, in a way that talk is cheap.
Yeah.
And if the incentive schemes are that any sale or any transaction is helpful, it's clear that everything is great and everything is like motivated in terms of like, let's perceive it as it's a great opportunity or is the right thing. But having the proof that people put in work and care not just about like surface level details, those are the things that then create trust, which in the end is the lubricant of every transaction, right? Especially if you're not an expert yourself, you want to feel like you have enough trust, so you feel good about it, because there will always be parts of the entire adventure, right, that are unforeseen. You don't know what will ultimately end up happening. So as soon as you have a team that has already proven to you that they're willing to work and put in the hours, it raises the level of trust that certainly made all the difference for us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I recall when I was in Colombia on vacation, and we had a call with you, Lukas, and Mario, and I mean, I have full confidence in these guys, because I know that when they're working with somebody that wants to work with them, they're going to go full charge and full steam ahead. I think that's what makes these guys so successful, is that they're going to go through every single opportunity, or they're going to find every single opportunity to help that client out, whatever it is. And again, right now it's the low inventory market. It's really hard to find a property. So let's talk about this property in particular, because we actually had the relationship with the agent on the other side, and that was obviously really important because it was under a multiple situation. So kind of walk us through that process as well. Obviously, you didn't know that we knew the agent on this on the other side, repping the other side of the transaction. So did that give you confidence as well going forward with us?
I think it could have been potentially very stressful if you're flying blindly, right? So having a lot of feedback and not having to, in a way, chance it, but rather getting a lot of information back and forth and understanding what needs to be done in order to be successful. Once again, changes, even if it were the same kind of situation or process, it changes how you feel about it. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, sounds good. Well, let's talk about the inspection process, because I know that was it's to me, as have been repping people for a long time. The inspection process is very stressful, and it's not only expensive for the for the person getting the property, but for the other side it's also stressful because you can back out at any given time, right, of the transaction. So why don't you guys talk about that process and what it looked like? Because I know you guys put a lot of work in the mornings scheduling the inspector. So like, what inspections were done at the property?
So we had the general inspection, we had the sewer line inspection, we had permits pulled to make sure all the permits were done correctly, which was a little bit of a tricky situation with the square footage. What else did we have? We had mold remediation, we had mold done, we had roof done as well. I think going onto the permits, the square footage was a little bit of a determining factor, just because there was a little discrepancy with the garage. But through a little bit.
Let's talk about that. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
I think that's really important.
Right. So new builds typically in Venice include the square footage of the garage. No one wants to be told that your garage is a part of it's a discrepancy. So obviously Lukas was a little bit hesitant, like, well, I'm buying this for I'm getting this, pardon me, for this price. Why is the square footage in the garage included? So that arose.
So what did you guys do in order to I guess make them feel comfortable but also protect them as well?
So we went back and forth with Jacob. We made sure that the permits were to date. So we went on the city of Los Angeles, made sure the permits were pulled first of all correctly. Wendy as well helped us with that. And then through Jacob, he reiterated that this is what it is, and we made it a smooth transaction. So
I think also on that point is that, and it goes back to having existing relationships with the other side in terms of the agents as well. And with Jacob, we've worked with him. You've worked with him for many years. He's very close to our president, Hilton Hyland, and he came to us and he wants to work with us, and he wants to make sure this is a successful transaction for both parties. So, although in any negotiation there's always a little bit of friction, I think having a good relationship with both parties helps both the seller and the buyer to get where you need to get to in order to to ensure that everyone's happy to move forward with the transaction. And I think that's an example of what happened especially around the square footage point that was a little bit contentious.
I think that's probably one of the most important things in a transaction is making sure that your agent on your side is protecting you and not just wanting that transaction to be done so that they can get paid. Especially in a house like this, a lot of things can arise, right? So if we say, all you need is the general inspection, and the general inspection is not going to be an expert at every single thing. He's going to look at the house in general, right? And a lot of times, an agent can just overlook things and say, oh, it's fine. But we wanted to make sure that you and Jacqueline understood the house, right? How did you feel during that inspection process? Was it a little stressful? Did it make you feel comfortable? Like, what was that process for you?
Neither comfortable nor stressful.
Yeah.
First of all, for people who haven't been through the process, it's a barrage of documents that you have never seen before. And it starts with just the sheer logistics of the operation. And if you are not atop of your agenda, your game, you would be hard-pressed to even get the logistics in by the time frames or the time window that is set, because there are strong incentives to expedite the entire process, right, for the other side. So because of that, the more you can be on top of the entire process and get like the right people in, the more time you have to educate yourself and understand what information is coming up, which just, once again, in terms of sheer volume, is pretty taxing. And I don't recommend this entire process to be done without somebody to guide you and help you, right?
Yeah. And I think that's important, moving forward with this new NAR lawsuit, right? Where the seller may not pay the buyer a commission, right? So now it's up to the buyer to either pay for their agent or have to figure out a solution with the seller for the seller to pay for that commission, right? So I think that's important for us to educate the buyers in what we do and why we're worth what we're worth. Whatever that amount is for that buyer for that one transaction, it's all going to be negotiable at that point after July. Anything else about the escrow process that you want to mention about how they helped you? The seller disclosures. We talked about the inspections. We talked about the square footage, which is a very, very important part, especially at the end when we were like, oh, wow, the garage is included in the square footage, right? So I know that when they told me about it, we started looking at all the other new developments that have sold, and we noticed the same thing happening, that the garage was also included, which made us feel a little bit more comfortable. Otherwise, we would have said, hey, we want a big price, drop on the transaction based on that garage being included in the square footage. Anything else that you can think of that they made you feel more comfortable in the transaction?
It's a very stressful, high impact kind of situation. So no matter what is actually happening, whether it's a smooth process or with a lot of hiccups, you will be in a situation where you need a lot of feedback and guidance.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Anything else you guys wanted to include or mention as part of the transaction? What you guys did? I mean, again, I know what you guys did because I was there watching you guys hustle and really go after it, really trying to help them with their tight guidelines. Their tight time frame. But anything else you guys want to mention?
I mean, I think for us it was working with Lukas and Jacqueline. We had a 20-day close, and we had to do a lot, including all the contingencies, inspections, and everything else that came with that. Yeah. And I think just having that upfront trust at the start and building the collaboration and being able to literally speak to each other whenever we wanted, outside of obviously a few meetings here and there, but having that collaboration allowed us to hit the timelines, and they were pretty aggressive timelines that we're working to, especially with other offers out there as well, because if you start to fall back on your timelines, then suddenly you've got those other or one or two other offers that are still very much there in the wings waiting to swoop. So I think for me and Mara, the key was just to have that trust from the start, have the collaboration there, and I think that helps the process immensely to actually hit the timelines we're working to.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else, Mario? That's it. Okay, sounds good. Well, I guess my last question is, what do you recommend Christian and Mario to your friends and family?
Oh, well, absolutely. Right.
Be honest.
All right. Yes.
Yeah.
The caveat is that this is a very important and personal process and decision, and you should find the people who are unapologetically in your corner, right? And that also understand what you need. In our case, we knew we made the right decision, but your mileage might vary. So you need the people who are in your corner, who help you, and who also understand what you want, to guide you through the entire process, because it's complicated, it's stressful, and you don't want to question yourself. Also, you need the guidance in terms of when is the right time to push, what are the things that you can skip over, and having that is it just makes up for a better overall experience, which should be part of it, right? It should not be stressful. It should be something which is enjoyable and you're looking forward to.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Christian, Mario, any last words about that? No?
No.
Okay, sounds good. Lukas, thanks for coming on camera and telling us your experience with working with us, and we're looking forward to helping you out in your next transaction.
Absolutely.
And all right, guys, thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Lucas.
All right, so what did you guys think? We had a great conversation with Lukas at his house in the front yard. We got a beautiful little koi pond in the front. Thank you, Lukas, if you're watching this, for coming on camera and sharing your thoughts on working with both Mario and Christian and the Paul Salazar group, right? In their first transaction in Los Angeles. I mean, I think it's important for the viewer to understand is that a lot of buyers out there are doing this for the first time and they don't know what they're doing. So having somebody on their side is super important. So we talked a little bit in the beginning of the video about what you guys did to help them find off-market properties and also build the trust so that they hired you, right? So they probably talked to, 4 or 5 different agents or probably more. And they called you and say, hey, we want you to represent us on this purchase. Yeah. That was a great call, obviously, right? Because you've done a lot of work and they could have picked somebody else and then you would have just lost all that time, right? So that time was well spent. So let's talk about the actual transaction and getting the house, because it was under multiple offers, right? So we knew the agent. And I think that's such an understated benefit of working with not only us as a team, but also Hilton and Hyland, because we're a known brokerage and we are known agents. We're a known group here in the Los Angeles community. So working with us as a buyer's agent is going to benefit you, because when we're submitting offers, listing agents want to work with people that they trust and like, and we knew the agent. Yeah. So how important was that?
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, the first conversation we got on with the listing agent, they knew us, they knew yourself, Paul, they knew David Kramer, who's our president, and they're like, we want to work with you. And we knew there was other offers on the table, but that first kind of comment on that first call with the listing agent just set the foundations for everything. It meant that we're both working really, really well, both sides in collaboration. We had timelines working to, contingencies that we had to get rid of, and an escrow kind of close we're looking to hit, all within I think a 21-day period. Yeah. And with that collaboration and working on both sides with each other, it just meant the process, which was complex at times with any of these transactions. 100%. We know they're very complex. Always. But it was so important having an agent that you're working with that's on your side as such. Yeah. And that helped with negotiations. And Mary, anything else?
Yeah, I think the due diligence process was like a tough thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because you want to have that trust factor.
Yeah. And well, let's talk about that. Yeah. I think that's really important too. Yeah. So, what inspections did we have, or did we advise the buyer to get?
Yeah. So general inspection. Okay. We had the roof inspection. We had sewer line inspection. We had permits pulled. We had drainage. Yeah. We had geo as well, just in case.
Yeah, mold, pool.
Pool.
Termite. I think you said termite already.
Yeah. Foundation as well. So
everything
pretty much.
And it's really important, because if you're a buyer out there and you're watching this video, most buyers agents that I've seen aren't as diligent as us.
Exactly.
We don't care if the transaction closes or not. For us, it's making sure that the buyer is happy in the process. If they want to buy it, great. If they don't and they think it's too much work, then we move on to the next property. We're not pushing any of our buyers to close any transaction. Yeah. We want them to know what they're buying. The last thing we want is for a buyer to call us in 6 months and say, hey, we have a leaky roof. How come your inspector didn't find it?
Yeah.
This is why when we send them inspectors, we send them a list of 3 inspectors and we say, hey, these are inspectors that are reputable, but you can use your own inspectors too. You don't have to use the ones that we like to use or that we recommend, right? You can use your own, but we always like to use the guys that are very diligent, very detailed. They may not be the cheapest inspectors, but they're very diligent at what they do, right? I think it's really, really important, because we're not trying to get the deal closed. We're trying to educate the buyer on what they're buying and make them feel comfortable with that process. And what do we uncover in the inspection process and due diligence?
So we had a lot of rains obviously in LA. Yeah. So the mold remediator came and he was just like, guys, there's a lot of water underneath the foundation of the house. Yeah. He's like, I recommend getting someone out with drainage. And maybe most agents wouldn't advise that, but we're like, we recommend this, and
Yeah.
that's what he's recommending. So we got the drainage guy out. Thankfully, everything was fine, but you know, it was a process in terms.
For
of,
sure. Yeah.
you know,
I mean, again, you're right.
Yeah.
Most agents would say, "Oh, it's not a big deal."
Exactly. Let's move
You
on.
know?
Let's get the deal closed.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And then what was the other thing that we uncovered?
The permits that the garage was included in the square footage.
Yeah.
Which technically you should.
Yeah, I
do,
mean,
but
look,
a practice.
it's all over the place,
Exactly.
right? Like the square footage thing is a big issue right
Yeah.
now when you're buying a property. Most buyers in LA are buying based on price per square foot.
Yeah.
If you look in other areas, it's not really a price per square foot type of thing. It's not. But in like most of the bigger urban cities like New York, San Francisco, LA, Miami, it's very much a price per square foot based type of analysis. And we've noticed that a lot of the new builds in Venice, the developers are adding the garage as square footage, and that's usually not how we do it, right? So they didn't like that. They're like, well, why are we paying this price if they're adding the garage? That's really not how it's done. So what we did is we said, look, let's look at other new developments in the area. Let's see what they're doing. And what we uncovered from that research is that a lot of new developments are adding the square footage of the garage into public records.
Yeah.
It's on public records, right? So if they get it appraised, they're not going to count the garage. But if you do a price per square foot analysis, and if the other ones are doing the same thing, then it's a wash, basically. I mean, we can remove the garage from those comps as well, recalculate the price per square foot, and it would be the same thing. So we made him feel comfortable, but we also got him a price reduction on all the repairs and a good amount for the square footage, even though the comps said that it was fine.
Yeah.
So they were happy, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And
Anything else that we're missing that was part of the transaction that I would say sets us apart from the average agent? We talked about off markets.
Off markets, access
know.
to incredible network of properties that people aren't seeing today.
Yeah.
I think having that relationship with most of the agents in the market really helps, especially the well-established ones when it comes to both the listing and the buying side. Yeah, and just that attention to detail during the inspection process, right? Because that is the most important for the buyer, to protect them against, eventually having to pay more, down the road if this stuff comes up, if you don't do it properly in the first time during the inspection. So I think that, so we've got inspectors we work with that we trust, and they're very, very good at what they do. And I think the message back to the buyer is that we always have to do that because you're going to save yourself money and then down the line.
100%.
Rather than trying to take shortcuts, which a lot of listing agents try and do because they want to get it closed, right? So that's where we have the best interest of our clients at heart, and I think that came out during with Lukas and Jacqueline. With the purchase of,
and not only that, but we're there after close of escrow. Right. I mean, they've called you, asked you questions about the pool, who's doing this, who's doing that, and you're there. Yeah. We don't disappear.
No, exactly.
We're there for a lifetime. We want them to be our clients now, forever, and our friends now. I mean, they came to our wine and cheese event, and they're great clients. Cool. Well, if you're a buyer out there and you have other questions about how we represent our buyers, feel free to reach out to Mario, Christian, myself. Leave a comment down below. Hit the subscribe button, like button, and we'll see you next week.
Love it.
All right. See you later.
Cheers,
Bye,
guys.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice.